Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas is a 1999 direct-to-home release anthology film which features 3 stories which just fill you with festive cheer. Think of it a little bit like Creepshow but without the horror element and a load of Christmas just stuffed in there instead. The film features quite a lot of your favourite Disney characters such as Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, Daisy Duck, Huey, Dewey and Louie, Scrooge McDuck, Goofy, Max. The list just goes on and on. And you may actually recognise the voice of the narrator, who is none other than Kelsey Grammer, who really does bring a little bit of warmth when introducing each one of these stories.
The moment's arrived. It's here. Christmas time.
And over the years in this house, it's fast become a festive family favourite. It's one of those movies that we have to put on every single year. The first story is called Stuck on Christmas and it features Donald Duck, Huey, Dewey and Louie, who are not on the best behaviour after waking up on Christmas morning and just going straight into their presents before waiting for the family. And then rushing out of the house with the brand new sleighs that Donald Duck has bought for them without so much as a thank you or even acknowledging the Christmas card that is left on the sleigh for them. And then it would seem that they forgot about their table manners as they devour the Christmas dinner and then refuse to join in carol singing with the rest of the family. And then that night when they go to bed, they wish that Christmas could be every single day. And they get their wish. And then the cartoon turns into this kind of Groundhog Day story where Huey, Dewey and Louie are living the same day, Christmas Day, over and over again. And they very quickly get bored of this. And with each day that passes, their selfishness grows and they realise that they are just destroying Christmas for everyone else because they are being so selfish. And they go about trying to put things right and think of others at Christmas. It really is a nice story and it's got heart and it's a little bit sad in parts as well because you feel for Donald Duck. Donald Duck is doing his best to put on a good Christmas for his nephews and for his family, and each and every day that is repeated, Donald Duck always comes off worse. And you feel bad for him because he's trying his best and it just keeps getting ruined. And it really is a heartfelt cartoon in that respect. And when Huey, Dewey and Louie realise this and they try to redeem themselves, it sends a good message, I think. And it tells kids at home as well that having Christmas Day every day would not be as fun as you believe it would be. I don't know about you, when I was a kid, I wish Christmas Day would be every day, but this cartoon makes you realise that it wouldn't be such a good thing. The animation in this segment is absolutely beautiful. Actually, the animation throughout the film is absolutely beautiful. They've crammed it with so much colour, it's clean, it's crisp, and it just screams Christmas at you. It really does. It really is a treat to the eyes. And like I said before, I think it really does send out a really important message, but at the same time, it's a fun cartoon to watch as well. This cartoon is based on a short story which was published way back in 1892 called Christmas Every Day. And in the short story, we're introduced to a little girl who wishes that Christmas could be every single day, and it is granted by the Christmas fairy, and she fast comes to realise that it isn't all as fun as it sounded. And of course, with that story being written in 1892, it is a little bit darker in tone, but you can definitely see the elements of the story in this short cartoon. They've just made it a little bit more cheerful. And I believe this is actually the story that Groundhog Day, the movie starring Bill Murray, was actually based on as well. And I think there have been a few other adaptations that have took this story and built their own movie or short story around it. So it has actually influenced quite a few scripts over the years. The next movie features Goofy and Max from the cartoon animated series Goof Troop in a very goofy Christmas. And one thing I noticed about this is that Max seems to be a lot younger than he was in Goof Troop. He's actually been animated as a younger kid, which I thought was an interesting element, especially when you consider that Huey, Dewey and Louie have been the same age since time began. Now, this story is mainly about Max not believing in Santa Claus anymore because his neighbour Pete told him that Santa doesn't exist anymore.
The goof brain thinks there's a Santa Claus.
There isn't? I heard there isn't any Santa Claus.
Oh, who went and told you a silly thing like that?
So now it's become Goofy's job to convince his son once again that Santa Claus does indeed exist. And as Goofy is trying to persuade Max that Santa does indeed exist, he's also looking out for his next door neighbours who don't have a lot of money over Christmas. They can't afford a nice meal, they can't afford nice presents. So Goofy puts on a nice Christmas meal for them and he actually dresses up as Santa. And he doesn't only do this for the neighbours, but he does this to convince his son Max that Santa does exist. Unfortunately, Goofy's beard gets pulled off and Max sees right through the disguise and it just makes him disbelieve in Santa even more. So the rest of the movie is basically Goofy setting up a base camp on top of his house, looking out for Santa to get evidence for his son that Santa does exist. But unfortunately, Goofy also does start to lose faith that Santa does actually exist. And what I like the best about this is that Max actually tries to persuade his father that Santa does exist by also dressing up as Santa. So it shows this love dynamic between father and son, which Goof Troop have always done a good job with. They've always brought that family element into the story, especially when you don't really realise it as a kid, but especially when you realise that Goofy is a single parent. And it is quite heartwarming to see the relationship between the two. But don't despair, by the end of the story we do indeed find out that Santa does actually exist, but we knew that, didn't we? One thing I did notice whilst watching this anthology is that there are quite a lot of Easter eggs in there. There are quite a lot of things you might miss on the first time viewing this. You will see other cool characters pop up here and there from various other Disney TV shows or movies. And if you look closely, there is quite a lot going on in the background sometimes. I think the strangest thing that I spotted is a store called Lumberjack Lingerie. And I have no idea what all that is about, but I found it interesting. The final story in this anthology is called Mickey and Minnie's Gift of the Magi, which is also based on the 1905 short story The Gift of the Magi. This story features Mickey and Minnie Mouse, who don't have a lot of money but still want to get each other something very nice for Christmas. Mickey has seen a nice chain in a shop window that he would like to buy for Minnie to hold her treasured watch, but he doesn't have enough money just yet, so he goes to his day job, which is selling Christmas trees for Pete, who was also in the Goofy cartoon. And something I didn't mention before, that all these characters exist in the same world. All these stories exist in the same world of this film. So you will see them interacting now and again in each other's cartoons, and especially at the end they all come together. So he's selling Christmas trees for Pete, and there's a family who wants a Christmas tree but they can't afford it. This story is all about not having enough money at Christmas. And Pete's trying to sell them the big expensive tree, the biggest one he's got in the lot, but they don't have enough money for it, and Mickey brings out a small tree from the back and sells it to them for a much cheaper price. But of course Pete is a greedy boss and he isn't happy with this, so he fires Mickey on the spot and inadvertently burns his money in his pocket and also burns down the tree yard as well. So Mickey doesn't have any money now, but he still wants to get Minnie this chain that he's seen in the shop window. So to do so, he pawns in his favourite harmonica. Now unfortunately Minnie also wants to get Mickey a present, but she doesn't have any money either, and her boss, Mortimer Mouse, who is actually an old character from the Disney archives, who was kind of like a villain in the olden days, pays her with a fruit loaf instead of giving her an actual Christmas bonus. So she also cannot afford Mickey's Christmas present, which is a box for his harmonica. So to afford this box, she trades in a watch. So when they actually do trade gifts at the end of the cartoon, it's actually quite sad, as Mickey gives Minnie a chain for a watch, but she doesn't own a watch anymore because she's traded it in for Mickey's harmonica box. But now Mickey doesn't have a harmonica, and it's a nice story which just shows this love between two people who made a sacrifice to buy each other a gift to show that they loved each other and show that they cared. And it is really a nice story, and like I said, it's actually based off a 1905 short story, and in that story the wife is actually looking for a chain for her husband to hold his watch, and then at the end of the story, when they trade presents, they find out that the husband actually sold his watch to buy the wife a hairpin. It's very similar, but they did change it up slightly for this more modern story with Mickey and Minnie. It's a lovely little anthology movie that I tend to have on every single year now, and it's kind of tradition, just like watching The Muppet Christmas Carol, just like watching The Grinch, just like watching National Lampoon's Christmas, Scrooge, all of those. This one now shares a place next to those movies. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a lovely little festive cartoon which is very entertaining, it's got heart, and it delivers some really important messages as well, which I think is really important, especially at this time of year. Go and give it a go.